This presentation of the Big Game was made possible through the kind support of Tangipahoa Parish Tourism, your guide to the crossroads of Louisiana. And North Oaks Health System, improving lives every time, every touch.
Tangipahoa Parish is home to the strawberry capital of the world and the premier destination for family fun and adventure. Whether you're looking to visit one of our historic museums, grab a bite to eat at our amazing restaurants, or attend an exciting local event, there's always something to do in Tangipahoa Parish. Tangipahoa Tourism is proud to support the Southeastern Channel in its mission to educate and inspire young media professionals right here in Tangipahoa Parish, the crossroads of Louisiana.
Drop, yo!
Hi everyone and welcome back to The Big Game. I'm Brendan Smith alongside Logan Levin, and tonight we'll give a recap of both men's and women's basketball's first games of the season.
We'll also talk about the Southland Conference Championships for both tennis and cross country.
But first, let's see how the Lady Lions volleyball team is continuing their dominance and trying to three-peat. The Lady Lions came into the last day of October with a 10-0 Southland Conference record, playing their rival Nichols on Halloween night. The Lions continued their dream season by proving to be a nightmare for Nichols, with the Lady Lions winning 3-1. And after that road game, the Lions would travel back home to Hammond to take on the Lady Lumberjacks. It was only a few weeks ago where these two teams played each other, with SLU coming back to win 3-2. This game, SLU and SFA took turns taking sets until the fifth and final set, where the Lions took 5 straight points before taking another 6 straight, winning the match and final set 15-6. The Lions will continue to play inside the UC until November 14th and 16th, where the Lady Lions will play their last road games of the season against Texas A&M Commerce and Northwestern State before returning back to Hammond for the Southland Conference Championship Tournament.
Southeastern football recently played 2 of its more important conference games in UIW and Lamar. Let's see what happened. Now first, here with 11:52 left in the second quarter, the Lions are going to fake a punt, throwing back to Justin Dumas, who looks to throw back to the punter, Alec Mahler, for a big gain. Now you take it later in the second quarter after UIW scoop and score 2-minute drill. Eli Sawyer rolling to the right, throwing to the end zone. Errol Rogers has it for the touchdown. Lions down 11 late in the third now. Kickoff. Brandon Hayes back to return, and he's finally going to break his big one with a few cuts, and he is in the clear with nothing but green grass in front of him once he gets past this kicker to make this a 4-score game. Now later in the fourth quarter, Lions down 11, need to answer. Eli Sawyer calling for the snap. He's going to get it. He's going to throw a slant left side to Jalen DiMaggio, who miraculously stays on his feet for the touchdown. Lions go for 2 and convert. They would get the ball back, but they could not send it to overtime, falling 34-31 to the Cardinals. Now last Saturday against Lamar, early in the second quarter, picked off by Coriel Pierce, who's going to take it back 50 yards to the house for a pick 6 to tie the football game. Now down 3 late in the third quarter, Woodhall going to roll to his left, throwing across his body. And it's going to be another Lions interception in Keedrain Callaghan to set the Lions up in prime territory. Lions looking to answer. Eli Sawyer going to swing it out left side to Darius Lewis, who's going to do what he does best, shake and bake and find his way into the end zone. Down 3 with 5 seconds left in regulation. Riley Callahan drills this one from 37 yards to send it to OT. Time for extra football. Lions forced a field goal for the Cardinals, and Antonio Martin in their possession in overtime is going to take it to the end zone and give the Lions the win.
In other conference tournament news, both SLC championships in tennis and cross country have concluded, with the tennis championship concluding right here in Hammond, America. It was the Islanders who took home the men's title as they knocked off NJIT to take home the men's team championship, making their trip all the way from Corpus Christi well worth it. While for tennis, the Lady Lions lost in first-round doubles to McNeese, and Southeastern's Leanna Gomez made it to day 2 of the tournament, beating NJIT's Paula Alvarez before advancing to the quarterfinals, losing to SFA's Felicia Beck. In cross country, it was both Cardinal teams that brought home the title, with UIW winning men's and Lamar winning women's. And despite Southeastern finishing 11th in both categories, they did once again get their leg up on rival Northwestern State, who finished last in both men's and women's championship.
There's also another championship currently ongoing with the Southland Conference Soccer Playoffs. Southeastern went into overtime against Northwestern State, losing 2-1 to the Lady Demons. Other games that took place during the first round included both Texas A&M Commerce and Corpus Christi winning 2-1 against UIW and Lamar, and the number 1 seed Stephen F. Austin beating new conference member UT-RGV 3-1.
Coming up after the break, we'll take a look at Ponchatoula, Hammond, and more Southeastern football, as well as taking a look at Southeastern rugby and the trouble surrounding the outcome of their latest game. Don't go anywhere. The big game will be right back.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly.
Lights out. Good night.
And put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back to the big game. It was on November 4th that both men's and women's basketball started their season. Here's big game reporter Miles Edwards with the stories.
The Southeastern Lady Lions basketball team opened the season against Millsaps this past Monday. Southeastern started off slow, but later on got a big game out of 6-year senior Alexis Horn, who recorded 14 points, 3 assists, and 3 steals. Coach Gazzardo entering her 7th season this year, a season with high expectations in the Southland, and they start off on the right foot. Horn once again with the bucket and the foul as they go on to win 79-45. Later on in the men's game, Southeastern hosting William Carey following the women's. Lots of new faces on this team. Big games out of transfer stars Sam Hines Jr. and Jacavion Buckley, who are the 2 leading scorers for the Lions. Southeastern expected to finish 6th in the Southland this season, but looking to flip that script as Southeastern starts off the season hot and take care of business in this one, 91-53. On the big game, I'm Miles Edwards.
And with high school football almost finished, it's important that we look at 2 area schools and the lead up to their annual showdown. Reporting for Big Game is reporter Christian Vavasor.
Louisiana high school football season is drawing to a close, with only 1 regular season week left. Both Hammond High and Ponchatoula are coming off road tests, and each responded differently. The Hammond High Tornadoes traveled to Salmon on Saturday, and it was a tight, low-scoring game, all the way to the finish. However, it was the Tornadoes that would end up pulling away with a game-clinching interception in the fourth quarter, posting a 19-14 road victory. Despite an 0-3 district record, the Tornadoes will finish the year at 500 with a 5-4 overall record. On the other side, Ponchatoula traveled to Covington on Saturday night. Unfortunately, the Covington Lions would prove to be too much for the Green Wave, as they cruised to an easy win, beating Ponchatoula with a final score of 33-9, handing the Green Wave their 7th loss on the year. Despite a tough 2-7 season, the Green Wave looked to end their season on a high note, with a win over Hammond. These two district rivals will go head-to-head on Friday night, as the Green Wave will host the Tornadoes at 7 p.m. for the regular season finale. Reporting for the big game, I'm Christian Vavasor.
Now, we mostly talk about organized school-backed sports like football, basketball, and baseball, but we hardly talk about club sports, and one SLU organization in particular is starting to turn some heads in terms of popularity and success. Reporting for the big game is Jules Dormain.
The Southeastern Rugby Club played Vanderbilt in their playoff game here in Hammond. The game was close at halftime, each team boasting 10 points. Both teams came out of halftime hot, each scoring a try and converting their kicks. Due to a double offside penalty on the Lions, Vanderbilt scored a goal on a penalty kick, putting them up 3. With about 2 minutes left in the game, both teams struggled to get any momentum, and eventually the final whistle would be blown. However, after discussions between referees, they decided that Vanderbilt had an advantage, and by rule, the game could not end on an advantage. Southeastern would get the ball back through a scrum, score, and win the game. In the following days, Vanderbilt would appeal the results of the game. The appeal committee would rule in their favor, allowing Vanderbilt to advance to the championship game versus Sewanee. Unfortunately, the Southeastern rugby season has come to an end. However, rugby will return to Hammond when 7-on-7s start in the spring. Reporting for the big game, I'm Jules Dormain.
Pelicans recently started their season on October 23rd, beating the Chicago Bulls 123-111. I was fortunate enough to go to their game against the Indiana Pacers. Here's how their season is going so far. It's been a wild start to the season for the Pelicans as they suffered a key injury after their home opener against the Bulls, with DeJounte Murray being ruled out for the next couple of weeks. And injuries have been the story of the team thus far, as after their 2-game series against the Golden State Warriors, C.J. McCollum and Herb Jones were added to the injury report, but even with the Pelicans missing some of their best players, they're still managing to win games, mostly because of the efforts of players like Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, and emerging players like Jordan Hawkins and Jose Alvarado. But for head coach Willie Green, this is just a bump in the road for the Pelicans.
Things happen, adversity strikes, and how we handle that, it prepares us, for life, and that's how I look at it.
Coming off of a road trip, the Pelicans came back into the Smoothie King Center where they beat the Indiana Pacers 125-118. Leading the charge offensively for the Pelicans was Zion Williamson with 34 points. Other players to reach double digits were Brandon Ingram, Jose Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins, and newly acquired Pelicans player Brandon Boston Jr. The Pelicans will continue to play their string of home games until November 8th, where they will travel on the road to Orlando before coming back at home to play the Brooklyn Nets November 11th. Reporting for the big game, I'm Brendan Smith.
Moving from the Pelicans to the Saints, big game reporter Avion Dotch gives us the recap of what's happened the past couple of weeks of the season.
New Orleans Saints extend their losing streak to 7 games after a close 23-22 defeat to Carolina Panthers. Despite Chris Olave's strong 107-yard receiving game against the Chargers and then Alvin Kamara's 215-yard game against the Panthers, the offense struggled to score in these few games. Defensive lapses in the fourth quarter, injuries to key players like Marshawn Lattimore and Keandre Miller, and fatigue have compounded to the Saints' issues. Following the Panthers' loss, head coach Dennis Allen was replaced by Darian Rizzi as interim coach. And hours before the Tuesday cutoff, the Commanders struck on an agreement to the New Orleans Saints to acquire cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. The Saints will receive a 3rd-round pick, 4th-round pick, and 6th-round pick, while the Commanders will also get a 5th-round pick in the deal.
Still on the topic of New Orleans, we know the Super Bowl is coming as we get further and further through the NFL season. For more on how some of the locals will be helping out with this event, here's Big Game reporter Kendrick Allen.
The Super Bowl is coming back to New Orleans for a record 11th time, tying them with Miami. To get more insight about how the city will welcome tourists, I sat down with Leah Brown with the Chevron Ambassador Program.
In a city known for hosting, the ambassadors are really the first touch point that our guests are going to have. So we're looking for folks who are excited, who are warm, who are friendly, who really want to help this event be successful. And we're looking to sign up thousands of individuals from all over to come and help us activate Super Bowl 59. Folks will be in a variety of places, hotels, airports, helping people find out where different things are. So they will serve in a variety of capacities.
The program will employ ambassadors to be the guide and first face for newcomers in the city and allow volunteers to be involved with the Road to Super Bowl 59 that comes to a head on February 9th in 2025. Not to mention that the Super Bowl will also be during Mardi Gras season. So the city of New Orleans will once again have the eyes of the world drawn to it as the biggest sporting event in North America and one of the biggest parties in the world will be ready to let the good times roll. Also, can't forget that the 50th anniversary of the iconic Superdome will be held in February too. There will be even more need for volunteers than ever. In order to sign up, go to NOLASuperBowl.com and you must be 18 or older to apply. But hurry up, applications close soon on October 29th. For the Big Game, I'm Kendrick Allen.
Time for a break, but when we come back, we're going to wrap this show up with the WNBA Finals, World Series, and then some pick and roll. Don't go anywhere.
This presentation of the Big Game was made possible through the kind support of Tangipahoa Parish Tourism, your guide to the crossroads of Louisiana. And North Oaks Health System, improving lives every time, every touch.
Tangipahoa Parish is home to the strawberry capital of the world and the premier destination for family fun and adventure. Whether you're looking to visit one of our historic museums, grab a bite to eat at our amazing restaurants, or attend an exciting local event, there's always something to do in Tangipahoa Parish. Tangipahoa Tourism is proud to support the Southeastern Channel in its mission to educate and inspire young media professionals right here in Tangipahoa Parish, the crossroads of Louisiana.
Drop, yo!
Welcome back to the Big Game. 2 championships in professional sports are now in the books, and one came down to the wire as Kibi Huggins walks us through how the WNBA Finals ended up and the drama around it.
Game 5 in the Barclays Center, Minnesota wins jump ball and had momentum from the start, going up by double digits in the first quarter. Minnesota was able to hold the lead the whole second quarter, but things started to heat up for Diana Taurasi and the New York Liberty, allowing them to take the lead going into the fourth quarter. 5.2 seconds left, Diana Taurasi was sent to the free throw line to tie the game, forcing overtime. It's go time. A big three-pointer by Leona Fibic and a steal by Nara Sabali sent Liberty up by 5, and Diana Taurasi was able to seal the game at the free throw line with 10 seconds left, winning by 2 scoring possessions. What a well-battled game, but here's head coach Cheryl Reeve on the disappointing loss to the New York Liberty.
I know all the headlines will be Reeve cries foul. Bring it on, right? Bring it on, because this was stolen from us. Bring it on.
This is the big game, and I am Kibi Huggins.
Southeastern football recently played host to 2 quality Southland Conference teams in UIW and Lamar. And from quality teams to the overall quality of a season that we're seeing in the world of college football, here is big game reporter Lucas Hill.
NIL drama, the expansion of the college football playoff, and the return of a beloved video game are just a few examples of how the 2024 college football season has truly been one that the fans, media, and players have seen in forever. In seasons past, we're used to seeing a Heisman Trophy usually given out to the best quarterback in college football. But now it's finally time that it's awarded to the best player that exemplifies some of the best actions on the field. With guys that are top Heisman contenders like Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty that are having historic seasons, some that have yet to have been seen in forever. Travis Hunter is playing out of his mind and is considered to be a top 5 defensive back and a top 5 receiver, according to Pro Football Focus, while playing over 150 snaps. And Ashton Jeanty, a guy that has only played in 5 complete football games, as we've only played 8 games so far this year, and he's putting up over 1,200 plus yards to go along with 17 plus touchdowns. But that's not a knock on guys like Cam Ward, who has put up unbelievable numbers at the University of Miami after spending a couple years at the University of Incarnate Word, as well as Washington State University, as well as Shedeur Sanders, who is arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, is also throwing the football to Travis Hunter. The on-field product reminds me a lot of 2007, with surprise upsets, shakeups in the BCS Top 25, as well as controversy over who should be in the BCS National Championship.
Because it's amazing to think in a year we've had so many upsets in college football, how fitting to have Kansas and Missouri controlling their own destiny, not only for a conference title, but to get to the national title.
College football has never been more popular and has never been more alive than it is in 2024. For the big game, I am Lucas Hill.
Now let's get into pick and roll. Now Logan, Southeastern has the 3rd hardest ranked schedule in FCS, and now a lot of poll makers say, well, that's because the teams outside of the conference that they're playing, teams like Eastern Washington, teams like Tarleton, South Dakota State, but as you know, the Southland Conference isn't a slouch, so tell me about the overall quality of opponents that Southeastern is playing in their season.
Well, of course, when you look at the outside competition for Southeastern with Tarleton, South Dakota, Eastern Washington, including the FBS teams, that would add up to a difficult schedule, but they also play 8 conference games or so, and 4 of the teams in their conference have been ranked at some point or another. Southeastern has beaten 2 of the 3 that they've played so far, and those 4 teams, UIW, Lamar, Nichols, Stephen F. Austin, Southeastern's beaten Lamar, they've beaten Stephen F., they lost a close one to UIW, and they play Nichols Thursday after next on the 21st. So I feel like it's just disingenuous to discount the Southland Conference's, I guess, aid in making this a difficult schedule.
Yes, and absolutely. And I mean, you got to look at how they were previously ranked in the season. Lamar was ranked, UIW is still ranked, Nichols was ranked at the beginning of the season. I mean, these aren't easy teams for Southeastern.
No, definitely not. I mean, against Nichols, it always ends up close. It doesn't matter. Southeastern was 3-8, 2-8 going into that game, 3-7 going into the game against Nichols last year, and they still played it down to the wire. That's just how these rivalries go. Even UIW, conference games are always closer. They're always more difficult because that's just the nature of football. When you know these teams, you're going to have more fun. You're going to have a more entertaining game because it's going to be tighter. It's going to be closer. It's going to be more competitive. And I feel like FCS pollsters don't understand that.
Absolutely. And I know the 5-5 record will look really scary to a lot of poll makers, but I mean, only losing 3 points to UIW, beating Stephen F. Austin, only losing to Tarleton by 3, poll makers have to consider that, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, of course, their 3 most notorious losses, 2 of them came against FBS schools in Tulane and Southern Miss. 1 of them came against South Dakota State. That's South Dakota State. I mean, what are you going to do there? So 5-5, I feel like, doesn't really reflect how good this football team is, because as soon as they started playing conference games, their first game against Eastern Washington, they won 28-24 in an excellent football game. Yes, they went on the road and lost to Tarleton State the next week, but it was a 3-point loss, and it was questionable at times. Then they won, I believe, 2 or 3 straight, until they played UIW, and then they beat Lamar on the road last week.
Absolutely. And staying on the topic of football, the New Orleans Saints have had a very busy week. They fired head coach Dennis Allen, and they traded star cornerback Marshawn Lattimore to the Commanders for draft picks. Logan, what are your thoughts on this?
I give Dennis Allen as much respect as I can, because it's not an easy job to take over for someone like Sean Payton. And Dennis Allen, he has a stellar resume before he became the head coach of the Saints. Not so much with his Oakland days, because, not to discount Oakland, but it was kind of hard back in the mid-2010s for an Oakland coach to succeed properly. But I feel like it was time. Dennis Allen, great defensive-minded coach. I feel like some people are meant to be coordinators. Dennis Allen was a great defensive coordinator. Like we know, he won a Super Bowl with the Saints. He was on the defensive staff at that point. He's a great coach. But I think he lost the locker room, especially last year after he apologized to Arthur Smith and the Falcons for his team running up the score. I feel like he just lost the locker room after that.
Yeah, and obviously Dennis Allen, he's a very decorated coach in New Orleans. He won a Super Bowl with Sean Payton, and we obviously wish him the best in his future endeavors.
Absolutely. We wish him all the best we can. Now, when you look at the Saints' interim head coach, Darren Rizzi, I feel like you can immediately see the shift in the locker room. Because after that loss to the Panthers, so many Saints players, current and former, went on Twitter and went on their own little tirades. And I just feel like that shows how far gone, or I guess how disconnected the locker room was from the head coach. But then the first day Darren Rizzi gets named interim head coach, the players are wearing Merry Christmas shirts. I feel like when you have a coach that can connect with the players, you should succeed more. Now, when you talk Lattimore, I am very upset to see him leave because I loved watching him play. He's arguably the best cornerback in Saints history. I'm sure you don't disagree with that.
Yeah, definitely not.
And I'm glad he's somewhere in a place where he can succeed. I mean, 3 years ago, let's be honest, I don't think anyone was looking at the Washington Commanders to be in this position, but they've turned it around in an excellent way with their head coach Dan Quinn, Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, that whole team. Now they've added Marshawn Lattimore on defense. They are frightening in the NFC East, honestly, as a threat to win that division. And maybe the conference. That might be a bit of a stretch, but they have the tools to do it.
Oh, no, absolutely. Marshawn Lattimore, he's certainly going to succeed in Washington.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the Saints could only get a third-round pick for him. However, when you consider his age, his cap hit, which the Saints still have to eat, which that's a whole nother issue that's going to be talked about at another point on one of these shows. Also, you take into account his health concerns over the last few years. I think a third-round pick is about some of the best you could have gotten for him. And I am, like with Dennis Allen, I'm wishing him the best. I'm very sad to see Marshawn Lattimore leave the Saints, but I wish him the best.
Absolutely. And that'll do it for this episode of The Big Game. For more information on Lion Athletics, visit www.lionsports.net. And for more of us here at The Big Game, visit thesoutheasternchannel.com. So for Logan Loving and the entire Big Game crew, I'm Brendan Smith. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.